Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough. Today's review is requested by YTV 2018. So we've talked about plenty of weird instances of musicians and bands trying to work their way into other forms of media throughout the years, haven't we? Whether it be movies starring musicians like Ice Cube and Vanilla Ice, soundtrack singles from Will Smith, a soundtrack for a movie that never got made from Garth Brooks, cartoon shows featuring MC Hammer and Eminem, to even novelty songs like The Gummy Bear and The Flying Purple People Eater getting their own movies. And now we can add comics to that growing list, because now we're looking at a comic tie-in based around the band Mindless Self Indulgence. Now, musicians getting their own comics isn't anything new. There have been plenty of them all throughout the years, and they were usually made by some of the bigger publishers in the game like Marvel. Whether it was Kiss, Halloween, New Kids on the Block, MC Hammer, or Eminem getting to meet the Punisher and Spider-Man, there are a ton of these out there, usually meant to cash in on the popularity of these hot new music acts at the time. But this one's a bit different since it was made by the band specifically. As for the band it's based on, Mindless Self Indulgence was a punk band that mixed elements of punk, hip-hop, electro, and industrial, consisting of lead singer Jimmy Urine, bassist Lynn Z, lead guitarist Steve Rye, and drummer Kitty. Forming their band in 1997, their first album blew up in the underground scene in 1999, and by the 2000s the group struck a chord with the Hot Topic Warped Tours crowd of that era, with their main appeal being as un-PC and unapologetic as possible, being shocking, offensive, loud, and hating on everything and anything. Other celebrities, other music acts, the establishment, even their own fan base. I admit, I didn't really hear a whole lot of their stuff growing up, aside from their one song straight to video because it was in a super old AMV on YouTube and it always got stuck in my head. But for the sake of this review, I listened to some of their biggest hits, and while I'm not really into this kind of music, some of it's catchy and it's easy to see why it got popular when it did. As someone who remembers the 2000s Hot Topic emo scene, bands like this certainly flourished. In a way, they had a lot of the same appeal that groups like Marilyn Manson and the Bloodhound Gang did. From what I can find, they apparently went for quite a while, starting in the late 90s and ending their initial run in 2015. Steve and Kitty mostly leaving the spotlight, Lynn Z focusing on family life, and Jimmy doing solo projects and collaborations with Gerard Way and Serge Tankian, as well as lawsuits for grooming allegations and inappropriate conduct in 2020. Did I mention Warped Tours? However, instead of talking about their music or any of the drama, we're gonna primarily focus on this comic. Written by the band's 4 members, the comic was put out by Image Comics in 2010, Image being the same company responsible for the likes of Spawn, Kick-Ass, Invincible, Walking Dead, and Bone, surprisingly, with the art being done by Jess Fink, a not-safe-for-work artist who worked on a couple of indie comic projects, but mostly seems to do work online. With all that build-up out of the way, let's actually get to the comic. This is Adventures into Mindless Self Indulgence. The cover displays the 4 members of the band fighting some kind of giant sea monster. Well, that's a good way to start on the right foot. At least the front cover's pretty cool to look at. None of that's going to happen in the comic though, is it? The cover also gives us a glimpse of what kind of art we're going to be getting in this comic. And it looks pretty good, all things considered. The color palettes fit the aesthetic of the band, and they're colorful enough without being too annoying or distracting, even if the rest of the comic is in black and white, as you'll soon see. With the art style on the cover from Fink looking like those Adventure Time, Diary of a Wimpy Kid style webcomics that were popular in the late 2000s, you know, mixed in with the color palette of the Hot Topic scenester crowd. After that, we get a table of contents letting us know this is an anthology comic broken up into a bunch of different segments. This is then followed by the Mindless Self Indulgence Certificate of Authenticity. Oh, this ought to be good. This certificate of authenticity attests to the fact that the stories in this collection are genuine, crazy, f***ed up shit. These genuine, insane stories of crazy antics were produced in limited quantities by MSI and inspected for quality by professionals, with 2 Fs, and certified in collectible edition by the Mindless Historical Society. In other words, this comic is limited edition, and you should probably consider yourselves lucky if you have a physical copy of it, because nowadays, if you try to buy it online, it's probably going to cost a couple hundred, if not thousands. The first of these stories involves lead singer Jimmy Urine, simply called Dick on Fire. How eloquent. We were on tour with the Crazy Circus Homeboys, and the crowd was getting rowdy. Nah, too easy. So after having things thrown at him like a cigarette lighter, Jimmy decides to spice up the act by whipping out his penis on stage. And yes, this was apparently based on actual events. No, I'm not even kidding. Like the name of the story goes, he sets his own penis on fire on stage, and the crowd absolutely loves it. After the show, we were signing autographs, and in all the confusion, no one saw me f***ing kidnapped by the police. I could use a clip from Oliver Stone's Doors movie where Jim Morrison whips it out on stage, but I think I actually have a way better clip to use for this.
He took it out.
He what?
He took it out.
So Jimmy is denied his one phone call. It turns out that Kitty saw him get hauled away, and their label sends a powerful lawyer to get him out of jail. All the while he has to deal with the horror stories that you hear in prison, like inmates mocking your emo fashion, feeding you Fruit Loops and bologna sandwiches, and having to listen to Cameo songs on repeat. And then the story ends a week later with Jimmy sitting across from a sexy lady cop who somehow manages to find herself charmed by him and letting him go. And hilariously enough, he's dropped off in the bad part of town with no money or cell phone, just as the lawyer shows up to get him out of prison, even though he's too little too late. Wah wah. Next up in this insane cavalcade is The Kitty Show, a reoccurring segment featuring the drummer of the band. Laid out like a comic strip, these are usually short stories with her as the main character. The first of these involving her getting thrown out after simply slipping backstage. The next Kitty Show segment involves her giving booze to an alcoholic lead guitarist of the band K.O.B., and when they get on stage to perform, Kitty ends up sharing a drink with him while she should be drumming. The strip after that has the band decide that she should go on to do a radio interview for them since she's the least likely to curse on air, and she goes to do the interview and she curses on the air. Yep. That was certainly a joke, alright. The last of these Kitty Show segments has the band playing a gig in New Orleans, and they're the last ones to get their food at the craft services table. Kitty showing up last and basically getting nothing but scraps. And said scraps end up getting stolen by 50 Cent, or 60 Cent as it is here, riding on a golf cart. And it ends with her deleting all of his songs off of her playlist. Go lick your own lollipop, you son of a bitch! Ooh, burn! Take that, 50 Cent! You just got dissed by Jennifer Kitty Dunn in a Mindless Self Indulgence comic book. Next up, we get Steve and Lindsay pulling double duties since they share their segment of the comic, simply titled 48 Hours.
We ain't brothers, we ain't partners, and we ain't friends. Now if Gans gets away with my money, you're gonna be sorry you ever met me.
I'm already sorry. 48 hours.
No, not that one. At a sold-out concert, the two guitarists are trying to outdo one another. Steve climbs a speaker and dives into the crowd, but ends up face-planting. Lynn tries to take things a step further as she lunges into a group of people in wheelchairs, until they eventually just start tackling each other on stage. You know what? Add Jimmy puking on stage, and this really isn't too terribly off from a lot of Mindless Self Indulgence live performances. After the show, when they should be doing autographs, Steve lets some fans punch him in the face, and he then proceeds to run down to the local metal club with even more names parodying well-known bands on the marquee, and he proceeds to flash himself in front of everyone there, and then proceeds to run into the women's room. Oh, comic, you so crazy! You know something? I can easily imagine some asshat IRL streamers doing the exact same thing and then immediately proclaiming, "It's just a prank, bro!" Doesn't make it right or even funny, but you know that's the lame-ass excuse that they'll use to act like turds in public. But then the two find some common ground by setting off fireworks in random places, startling people, even their own bandmates. And it's rounded out with Lindsay egging on another band's guitarist to punch her in the face so she can have a black eye like Steve. And Steve ends up getting wasted on monk juice that Jimmy and Kitty said that they drank once with a Tibetan monk. Well, that was random, rambling, just kind of abruptly ended. Now let's see it again with 48 Hours Part 2. While they're at a new show in New Jersey, the crew talk with some other musicians backstage who say they're being treated badly. So those MSI goobers take it as an open invitation to get some revenge. And when the dick at the venue starts insulting them, they decide to go into full-on self-destruction mode, including stage diving, destroying instruments, pissing and taking a dump on stage, and even one of the members giving a blowjob to the lead singer. Again, considering a lot of the live show footage I had to sit through while researching this band for this review, as well as the lawsuits that were thrown Jimmy's way involving indecent exposure, this really doesn't seem too out of the norm for MSI. And here I thought that the certificate of authenticity at the beginning was just a joke disclaimer. And just like the other stories in this comic, it just kind of stops. They cause a massive ruckus, destroy a bunch of stuff, do and say a bunch of inappropriate things, all for it to end with a potential riot getting broken up by some cops. Yeah, I think this clip pretty much sums it all up. Well, that pretty much does it for the story-driven stuff in this comic. After the main segments are over, we then get a gallery of fan art made for the band, some dumb little challenges, concept art, some advertisement for the artists, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So that was the Mindless Self Indulgence comic, and... Oh wait, I'm sorry. I mean, oh, it's so shocking and offensive and tasteless and uncouth and... Honestly, if you're familiar with MSI and a lot of their shtick, it's pretty much exactly what I expected. I mean, is it shocking? Sure, but then again, I've sat through 2 of Vince Offer's desperate attempts at making shock value comedy movies, so maybe I'm just desensitized to it all. Again, if you know anything about this band and acts like them at the time, it's pretty much what I expected. At the end of the day, the fans of the band and these guys' antics might enjoy this comic, but as someone who likes a small handful of their songs, it just kind of felt like a joke that got old fast. And honestly, it feels like they were somewhat aware of that, since a third of the comic basically becomes a highlight reel of art made for them. For the fans, you'll probably get your money's worth, though you must be a dedicated fan if you're going to try and get a physical copy of this on places like eBay, I'm just saying. But for someone like me who knows about the band and likes some of their songs, the comic just kind of comes and goes. And while the artwork is pretty simplistic, I'll admit it's probably the best thing here. It's stylized and it fits the whole cutesy but edgy Hot Topic look that the band appealed to back in the day. I feel like I should be more shocked by the stuff that happens in the comic because yeah, a lot of it is insane and reprehensible, but I don't know. Growing up in an era that glorified Tom Green and South Park and being an avid fan of someone like Rucka Rucka Ali, a lot of this stuff just didn't shock me.
Does anyone out there like me yet? Can I stop this?
Similar to when I reviewed the Slim Shady Show years ago, this comic was trying everything in its power to be shocking, edgy, and provocative. And while it does succeed on some level, I've honestly sat through worse. I mean, after you have to witness things like Sonichu Rule 34, and Power Rangers torture porn, and My Little Ponies trying to kill each other, and Nostalgia Critic and Angry Video Game Nerd slash fiction, I honestly felt nothing while reading this. Until next time, I'm the Media Wiz, cause one art form wasn't enough.
Nemo, hit the road. I scream and dance like a 4-year-old. All these posers make me wanna go back to the 2000s, bro. Better music, fashion, and TV shows. And I'm talking when it was cool to be emo. No, 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 no.
Excuse me while I whip this out.